Hello! This self-guided module will focus on the reading foundational skills found in the K-5 ELP standards and the reading foundational skills found in the 6th through 12th grade appendix. This module has 3 objectives. By the end of the module, you will understand the characteristics of the reading foundational standards for kindergarten through 5th grade. You will understand the characteristics of the Reading Foundational Skills Appendix for grades 6 through 12. And you will understand how and when to use the Reading Foundations documents for kindergarten through 12th grade. Included in the English Language Proficiency Standards for grades kindergarten through 5 are a set of Reading Foundational Standards. As was stated in the overview module, the structure and organization of the 2019 English Language Proficiency Standards are very different from the previous version. The standards for English learners in kindergarten through 5th grade follow the same organization and flow. Each grade or grade band document opens with the reading foundational skills, which are broken down into phonological awareness, print concepts, phonics and word recognition, or decoding, and fluency. Immediately following the reading foundational skills are the numerical ELP standards, and these are organized by communication type: productive communication, receptive communication, interactive communication, and language. This module will focus solely on the reading foundational standards. What are reading foundational standards? Reading foundational skills and standards provide an entry point to complex literacy, referred to as reading foundations because they literally are the foundational building blocks necessary for students to gain access to text. The purpose of the K-5 Reading Foundational Standards is to identify the skills in phonological awareness, print concepts, phonics, and fluency that must be explicitly taught in kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. The standards also note considerations for foundational skills instruction in grades 4 and 5. There may be skills in which some English learners may need explicit instruction in 4th and 5th grade based on the literacy skills they possess in their native language as well as English. The K-5 foundational standards provide English learners access to the English Language Proficiency Standards by teaching the foundational skills they will apply to read, write, listen, and speak in English. This next section will focus on how and when K-5 teachers will use the Reading Foundational Standards. When planning for instruction in reading foundational skills, educators will access the Reading Foundational Standards for the grade level or grade levels they teach on page 4 of the ELP standards for that grade level or grade level band. The image pictured here, taken from the Grade 1 ELP standards, identifies that the table contains the Grade 1 Reading Foundational Standards. The standards are labeled either oral skills or print skills. Teachers of English learners will use the column on the left, which contains the ELP standards, to plan for instruction. The column on the right-hand side contains the Arizona ELA standards to which the ELP standards are aligned. Educators will plan instruction aligned to the standards for each of the foundational skills, beginning with phonological awareness, an oral skill, which is the ability to hear and recognize that orally spoken words are made up of smaller pieces of sound, such as syllables, onset and rhyme, and phonemes, and to be able to manipulate and work with these pieces of sound in a language. Targeted explicit instruction will be focused on one of the phonological awareness standards and based on the needs of the learners. Educators will also plan for daily instruction in the skills identified as print concepts, such as tracking text left to right or distinguishing between upper and lowercase letters. Print concepts may be defined as an awareness of how print works. In addition to planning for instruction in phonological awareness and print concepts, educators will also plan to teach the phonics skills identified in the K-5 Reading Foundational Standards. Phonics is a system of teaching reading and spelling that stresses basic symbol-sound relationships and their application in decoding words. The Reading Foundational Standards also include fluency. Reading fluency is the ability to read a text accurately, quickly, with automaticity, and with proper expression, or prosody, and comprehension. Because fluent readers do not have to concentrate on decoding words, they can focus their attention on what the text means. It's important to model fluency for students. Educators should plan opportunities for students to engage in daily fluency practice using controlled text that is connected to the phonics skills. Now for a quick check for understanding. Which set of foundational skills is all oral and requires no text? A. Fluency. B. Phonological awareness. C. Phonics and word recognition. Or D. Print concepts. You may pause the module to jot down your answer. If you selected B. Phonological awareness, you are correct. Phonological awareness is a component of oral language. It is the ability to hear and recognize that orally spoken words are made up of smaller pieces of sound, such as syllables, onset and rhyme, and phonemes, and to be able to manipulate and work with these pieces of sound in a language. Phonological awareness can be practiced in the dark because it only requires listening and speaking. Now let's look at another check for understanding. True or false? When planning for daily reading instruction, teachers in grades K through 5 should use the Reading Foundational Standards some of the time. You may pause the module to write down your answer. Press play when you are ready to continue. This statement is false. In order to be correct, the statement must be, when planning for daily reading instruction, teachers in grades K through 5 should use the Reading Foundational Standards all of the time. Students must engage in learning aligned to the Reading Foundational Standards every day. Teachers of English learners in grades 4 and 5 should be aware of several considerations for foundational literacy skills instruction based on student language and literacy characteristics. It is important to note that Arizona's ELA standards do not contain foundational standards in phonological awareness in grades 4 and 5. Phonological awareness skills are addressed in the 4th and 5th grade ELP standards because some students may need instruction in these skills to build a foundation in the sounds of English. The following are considerations for instruction in oral skills. If a student has no or little spoken English proficiency, that student will need instruction in recognizing and distinguishing the sounds of English, such as vowels, consonants, consonant blends, and syllable structures. If a student is proficient in spoken English, that student will need instruction in applying their knowledge of the English sound system to foundational literacy learning. In addition to the considerations for instruction in oral skills, there are also considerations for foundational literacy instruction based on student language and literacy characteristics in print skills. The following are considerations for instruction in foundational print skills. A student with no or little native language literacy will need instruction in print concepts. A student who has some foundational literacy proficiency in a language not using the Latin alphabet, such as Arabic or Chinese, may be familiar with print concepts and will need instruction in learning the Latin alphabet for English, as well as sentence structure. A student who has some foundational literacy proficiency in a language using the Latin alphabet, such as Spanish, will need instruction in applying their knowledge of print concepts, phonics, and word recognition to the English writing system and sentence structure. We will now look at a classroom application scenario in order to provide you with an opportunity to apply your understanding of the K-5 Reading Foundational Standards. A first grade English learner transfers into Roadrunner Elementary School. He was administered an OELAS placement test and scored an overall proficiency level of basic. This student was born in the United States and the primary language spoken in the home is not English. What are some reading foundation skills that can be focused on to help increase this student's English language proficiency? At this time, please pause the module to jot down some ideas. When you are ready, press play to continue the module. Because this student is in first grade, it is necessary to provide explicit instruction in phonological awareness, phonics, print concepts, and fluency. After assessing the student's knowledge in identifying letters and sounds, his teacher will be able to determine if the student needs support in articulation of any sounds, a phonological awareness skill, or if the student may need instruction in identifying any specific letters or sounds. It is important that the student begin to blend sounds to read single-syllable CVC words and apply the learning in a controlled decodable text. This is just one example of skills the teacher may focus on to help increase this student's English language proficiency. Now let's take a look at another classroom application scenario. This scenario is an upper elementary example. A fourth grade English learner transfers into Tumbleweed Elementary School. She was administered an OELAS placement test and scored an overall proficiency level of intermediate. Upon listening to the student read aloud, the teacher notices that she is omitting inflectional endings. What are some reading foundational skills this teacher can plan for to help this student? At this time, please pause the module to provide yourself time to think and write a response to the question. You may want to refer to pages 5 and 6 in the Grades 4-5 English Language Proficiency Standards document. You may press play when you are ready to continue the module. Because the student is omitting inflectional endings when reading aloud, the teacher may want to provide instruction aligned to Phonics Standards 3E, identify base words that have been modified by inflectional endings, and 3F, identify inflectional endings and their functions. The student should also be provided with the opportunity to practice reading text to apply the phonics skills being addressed. This is one example of how the teacher can plan to help this student.
We will now review the Reading Foundational Skills Appendix for grades 6 through 12. Just as in grades K through 5, the ELP standards for grades 6 through 12 are organized by communication type: productive communication, receptive communication, interactive communication, and language. English learners in the upper grades should have a foundation of reading skills that they have been building upon. Therefore, the reading foundational skills for grades 6 through 12 were not included as standards, but rather as an appendix. The appendix is available to support reading instruction for those English learners who enroll at the secondary level and have gaps in their foundational reading skills. You will notice the reading foundational skills in the upper grades include the same essential skill sets: phonological awareness, print concepts, phonics, and word recognition, decoding, and fluency. This document is organized in the same way as grades K through 5. For all levels, the reading foundational skills are organized in 2 columns. The column on the left is Arizona's English Language Proficiency Standards, Reading Foundational Skills, and the column on the right is Arizona's English Language Arts Standards. The right-hand column is included as a crosswalk reference to the foundational skills from the K-12 Reading and Language Arts Standards. As you can see in that column, the ELA standards do not include foundational reading skills for grades 6 through 12. As a teacher of English learners in the upper grades, however, you may have ELs that enroll who need extra help filling some foundational reading gaps. To help address this potential need within language development instruction, OELAS has included the foundational skills as an appendix resource. It is important to remember that because these skills are not explicitly taught at this level, they will not be assessed on the new OELA. The top of the document contains some considerations for those students with no or little spoken English proficiency. It also lists considerations for students with some spoken English proficiency. All students, including those in the upper grades, need a strong base of foundational skills in order to push through to a more complete understanding of printed text. For teachers of English learners, this means it's necessary to have a complete understanding of the foundational language skills and a willingness to scaffold literacy learning to meet students' language needs regardless of grade level. Because the ELA standards do not include foundational reading skills for grades 6 through 12, this appendix is meant to be a resource for teachers of ELs as they help students make these important foundational connections while acquiring English. To help understand how to use the Reading Foundational Skills Appendix, let us take a closer look at its content. Phonological awareness is the ability to consciously think about language itself at various levels. This includes an awareness of the words in sentences, the syllables within individual words, and an awareness of the individual sounds within those syllables. Oral language is a foundational skill for later reading and writing. It is therefore critical for language learners to develop a solid foundation of these oral skills so they can later apply them as they learn to decode text and write text. Teachers of English learners should recognize the importance of building phonological awareness skills at all levels listed on this slide. This remains true even in the upper grades. As we switch over to print skills, one of the first things to consider are the basic print concepts. Think about those students with a limited literacy background or those who have prior experience with a language that has a completely different writing system and a different way of reading text. Consider an English learner who is used to reading from right to left or top to bottom. The print concepts listed on this slide may need to be explicitly taught to some of our English learners. The next set of skills to consider when it comes to the foundations of print are phonics and word recognition. Once students can identify individual sounds or phonemes in words orally, they will need explicit instruction and repeated practice with the various ways those phonemes are represented in print. It is important for teachers of English learners to remember and teach the numerous ways our letters can be combined and to help students make those sound symbol connections. It is also important to remember that the English language does not solely operate at the individual phoneme level. Efficient decoding also requires knowledge of the syllables and morphemes, those meaningful parts in words. English learners will need explicit instruction to help them recognize syllable types, as well as explicit instruction and repeated practice recognizing and using morphemes. Instruction at all these levels is necessary for students as they learn to recognize and read words in English. The last component of the foundational print skills is fluency. Fluent readers must be able to easily decode and recognize printed words while at the same time attach meaning to what is being read. Accuracy and automaticity are key, so this requires intentional planning by teachers that allows students multiple ways to practice reading and speaking with correct intonation and prosody. Teachers should also model appropriate expression and phrasing while reading text aloud. Let's test your knowledge of the reading foundational skills. Which of the following are essential reading foundational skills for all students? Phonological awareness, phonemic awareness, word awareness, knowledge of spelling patterns. The answer is all of the above. Phonological awareness, phonemic awareness, word awareness, and knowledge of spelling patterns are just a few of the essential components for successful language acquisition. True or false? Knowledge of reading foundational skills can help English learners increase proficiency in English. This statement is true. Students with a deeper knowledge of reading foundational skills are better equipped for success with English language acquisition. How might you use the Reading Foundational Skills appendix with your EL students? To help answer this question, let's take a look at a couple of classroom scenarios. Here is scenario number 1. A 7th grade English learner transfers into Sunbeam Middle School in January. She has been administered an OELAS placement test and has scored an overall proficiency level of pre-emergent emergent. This student is new to the U.S. and has never taken an English class in her native country. How might a language interventionist use the Reading Foundational Skills appendix as he or she begins to help this student understand the English language? I will give you some think time. This is an open-ended question with multiple potential answers. Experienced teachers at any grade level should understand and strategically plan for learning activities that refine student understanding of the intricacies of the English language. While this particular student needs language instruction in all areas contained in the ELP standards, one consideration from the lens of the Reading Foundational Skills would be inclusion of daily practice in phonological awareness skills. Here is scenario number 2. A 9th grade English learner transfers into Cactus High School at the beginning of the school year. He was administered an OELAS placement test and scored an overall proficiency level of basic. This student is new to the U.S. and has a strong literacy background in his native language. What are some reading foundational skills that can be used to help expedite this student's English language acquisition? I will give you some think time. Once again, this is an open-ended question with multiple potential answers, and the same purposeful and strategic planning would be necessary. In addition to creating lessons that are driven by the ELP standards, one foundational reading skill that can help this student increase English language proficiency is explicit instruction in morphemes, those meaningful units in words. This might help the student as he makes connections to words he knows in his primary language. Let's review the purpose of the Reading Foundation Skills document across the grade levels. For grades K through 5, the Reading Foundation skills are an actual part of the ELP standards. These skills will be an integral piece of daily instruction for English learners in these grade levels. The Reading Foundation skills in grades K through 5 can be used for ELP standards documentation in an SEI classroom. In grades 6 through 12, the Reading Foundation skills are an appendix to the ELP standards. They are meant to be used as language intervention support for students lacking foundational reading skills. These Reading Foundation skills are a critical instructional component for students who may have gaps in reading ability or overall language ability. It is important to remember that these foundational skills in grades 6 through 12 are not meant to stand alone. The English language proficiency standards are still necessary for instructional focus during SEI instruction.
Now it's time for another check for understanding. True or false? The reading foundational skills for grades K through 5 can be found on the same documents as the ELP standards for grades K, 1, grade band 2-3, and grade band 4-5. You may pause the module at this time if you wish to do so. When you are ready to continue, press play. The statement is true. The reading foundational standards for grades K-5 are a part of the ELP standards for these grade levels and should be used as part of daily ELD instruction. Let's look at one more true or false question. True or false? The reading foundational skills for grades 6 through 12 can be found on the same documents as the ELP standards for grades 6 through 8 and grades 9 through 12. You may again pause the module if you need some think time. Press play when you are ready to resume. If you said the statement is false, you are correct. The reading foundational skills for grades 6 through 12 may be found in the 6th through 12th grade Reading Foundational Skills ELPS Appendix. These skills are meant to be used as a support for teachers as they help build literacy foundational knowledge for those English learners who lack foundational skills background or may have gaps in reading skills. Now that you have completed this module, you should have an understanding of the characteristics of the K-5 Reading Foundational Standards and the characteristics of the 6th through 12th grade Reading Foundational Skills Appendix. You should also be more familiar with how and when to use the K through 12 Reading Foundations documents. Thank you for completing this module. Please reach out to the EL coordinator at your school, district, or charter if you have any questions. If you are the EL coordinator for your LEA, please reach out to your OELAS Regional Specialist. If you are unsure who your assigned regional specialist is, please visit the website on this slide or email oelas@azed.gov. Thank you.